everyone, I'm Adam Brown and this is Shell Point Today for Tuesday, September 20th. On today's show, we'll meet one of the newest instructors in the Academy of Lifelong Learning. And Michelle Tompkins will talk about a Health Connections class on spicing up your cooking called Savor the Flavor. But first, we'd like to remind you that this Thursday is National Fall Prevention Awareness Day, and Shell Point residents are invited to commemorate this day at the Larson Pavilion. Activities on this day will include a fall risk screening, Ask a Nurse Practitioner session, vision screenings, demonstration of assistive devices to keep you safe at home, door prizes, refreshments, and more. It all takes place from 1 to 4 p.m. at the Larson Pavilion on the island, and you'll need to register by calling Randall Lee at 415-5432. Looking ahead to Friday is everybody's favorite beach day. Head out to Delnor Wiggins Pass State Park for a wonderful day at the beach, a picnic lunch, and a stop for ice cream on the return trip. Court pickups begin on the island at 8:30 a.m. and the cost of the trip, including the picnic lunch, is $16. Ice cream is on your own. Before hitting the sand and surf, make sure you sign up at either service desk. Terry Kolath of the Academy of Lifelong Learning would like you to learn more about some of the instructors this season. She begins today with Melissa Butler. Melissa will be exposing us to knowledge about the political world, specifically the Electoral College. But today she visits with Terry in this special interview so we can learn more about the person beyond the classroom.
Hi, I'm Terry Kolath, manager of the Academy of Lifelong Learning. I'm here today to give you an introduction to one of our instructors. Her name is Melissa Butler. She lives at Royal Bonnet. Thank you so much for joining me, Melissa. We want to start out by sharing with our residents where you grew up. Where did you come from?
So I started off, I'm a Philadelphian, and as you know, one of my interests is baseball. I'm a lifelong Philadelphia Phillies fan, but also I'm kind of a lifelong political scientist. I remember first watching or getting interested in politics when I was just a little tyke, maybe about 1952 or so. I was about 3 or 4 years old. And Howdy Doody was running for president of the kids. And I got really interested in that. And I would kind of date the beginning of my political interest way back to that. And always followed elections as I was growing up and was always interested in political things. Then went to college. It seemed the obvious natural major. There were not a lot of women political science majors back then. About 15% of political scientists when I was going through school were women. And one of the interesting things to watch over the years as I attended the political science annual conventions was how much more difficult it got to be to find your way into the ladies' room. Because it used to be I had the whole place to myself, and then in the last few years I've had to share it with dozens and dozens of others as political science became almost a 50-50.
What do you think made that change? Why did that happen, do you think?
Well, I think in general, women started entering more careers. A lot of women, I think, who started going to college began to think about things like law school. And many of them were sort of stopped along the way and maybe seduced by political science and just became interested in the political side. In the early days, we talked about studying things like government, or a lot of political science departments grew out of government/law courses. But in the beginning of the 20th century, people began to use some of the scientific methods to study people and political attitudes, for example, why people don't vote is another example. And they could actually go out and gather data. They could become empirical. They could develop hypotheses and test them. One of the problems is that people probably change more than atoms do in a chemical hypothesis, for example. So.
We certainly need and have a thirst for understanding the Electoral College because, as you've shared, it's a very important part of our election process. So tell us what we're going to learn about the Electoral College, why it's important that we learn about it.
Well, it is actually who we're voting for whom we're voting. We're actually voting for the Electoral College, and people, of course, don't even know the names of the electors whom they're voting for. But we do not popularly elect the president. As you see, if you watch the news, for example, they'll show an opinion poll, and the opinion poll will show, you know, the Democrat ahead or the Republican ahead slightly, but then they may stop and say, but of course that doesn't really matter because it's all about what's happening in Florida and New York and Ohio and Georgia and so forth. It's the sum total of the electoral votes from those states that really matter. So the top line popularity is misleading.
And I know you have a very full life. What are you interested in, and what do you do with your time, Melissa? I want to hear a little bit about what you do in China in the summer and other things you're interested in.
Well, I do spend about 7 or 8 weeks away in the summer. I teach in China. I teach in a program that is mainly for Chinese students who study in the United States but are home for the summer. And what this program does is to offer courses that are readily transferable back to their American institutions. So it gives them a chance to get out of the house. They're all the only child, and you know, they're happy to see their parents, but they would also like to interact with people their own age. So it gives them a chance to do that, and to do that constructively and pick up some credits. So anyway, that's what I do in the summer, and I'm actually also the dean of that program, so I do some work during the year hiring people and helping to communicate our expectations to them.
How do these Chinese students look at political science differently than we do?
They are, I would say, on the whole, less interested in politics in general, which probably stands to reason since their own political system is more closed than ours. I've had a couple of students, I've been doing it for 7 years, I've had a couple of students who were interested in having political careers. Both of them really saw themselves in terms of the diplomatic corps, becoming a diplomat in some way. But otherwise, you know, students look at American politics and try to understand it and try to figure out I ask them to figure out what they like about American politics, and they always zero in on what I would call First Amendment things. They like the openness. They all like YouTube. They all like Facebook. They all like that stuff. So you know, they like that. And then I say, okay, what do you think that Americans could learn from China? And they tend to look back at me and say, well, you know, your government doesn't get anything done. And, you know, they're kind of right about that too. Sometimes what their government gets done, it may be not the right thing, but sometimes their accomplishments are very impressive.
Lifelong learning is pretty important to us here, and I'd like you to share with us, from your point of view, the value of lifelong learning.
Well, I've always lived on a college campus or 400 yards from my office when I lived in Indiana. And you know, the life on a college campus just seemed to keep everybody younger and more active. I had colleagues who were still learning languages in their 80s and so forth, and they just seemed to have the best lives. They seemed to be you know, involved in things. They seemed to be intelligent. And they seemed to be sources of wisdom. One of the things, back to my Chinese folks, one of the things that the Chinese still do kind of value again is age and wisdom. And I found that lifelong learning certainly gives people more to contribute in the way of wisdom in their age. So.
Very, very nice. Melissa, you certainly have a lot to share with us here at Shell Point, and I think we'll be calling on you again. Thank you so much for sharing with us your interests today and giving us information that's going to be extremely helpful.
Alrighty.
It's time to spice up your cooking with the pros here at Shell Point. Chefs Todd and Brett are standing by with Michelle Tompkins to talk about a Health Connections class you'll want to sign up for called Savor the Flavor.
Hi, I'm Michelle Tompkins of Resort Services, and I am in the kitchen at the Crystal Dining Room on the island, but rest assured, no, I am not cooking anything. You wouldn't want anything I'd cook. I am with Chef Todd and Chef Brett. They're going to be teaching a Health Connections class called Savor the Flavor. And tell us a little bit about this course. I know it's going to be adding some veggies and some really different entrees to spice it up. Todd, tell us a little bit about what you're going to be doing.
I'm going to show you a couple quick, easy recipes to turn your vegetables into some savory sauces, allowing you to enjoy your vegetables in a whole new manner.
Ooh, that sounds good right about now. Chef Brett, what are you going to be showing us?
I'm going to be trying a Lebanese dish called baba ganoush. It's a fantastic dip. It's really easy to make. It's with olive oil and hummus. And served with a little naan bread. We'll have some samples for you guys to try. So come on out if you'd like to give it a whirl.
That sounds great. I'm going to ask, what kind of spices and herbs would you use to make your vegetables extra yummy?
Well, actually, in one of the sauces, I'm going to be using some fresh rosemary and thyme, which brings out another layer of flavors to your vegetables, adding another layer to enjoy them.
And Chef Brett, why should residents come? What are they going to get out of this presentation? Are they going to get to taste some samples, or how is that going to work?
Yeah, we will definitely have some samples for everybody to try. And it's just an opportunity to see maybe just a little bit different culinary outlet than some of the regular offerings here at the Crystal.
Well, if you're interested in learning some different techniques on how to add some spice to your menu without adding all of the calories, come to this Savor the Flavor presentation by our very own Shell Point chefs. You won't want to miss it. Savor the Flavor will be September 22nd in the Social Center at 2:15. Sign up required.
Come on out and savor the flavor.
And now it's time to cover all today's happenings, Academy news, menus, and Village Church connections.
Welcome to the Happenings segment of Shell Point TV. I'm Dora Robbins.
And I'm Bev Chandling.
And we're here to talk about our activities for today. We're going to start with Bend, Breathe, and Balance at 7:15. At 8 o'clock, we have Pickleball game, and that's at the game court on the island. At 8 o'clock, we have Round Robin Tennis, and that's at the tennis courts. Stamp Ministry volunteers welcome at the Stamp Room on the island at 8:15. At 8:30, we have Bocce at the Bocce Court at the Woodlands. Ladies Golf at 8:30, that's at the Shell Point Golf Club. At 9:15, we have Caregiver Support Group Therapy, that's at the Conference Room at the Medical Center on the island. At 9:15, we have Memory Care Group, that's at the Conference Room Behavioral Health on the island. At 9:15, we have Open Painting, and that's at the Art Studio on the island. At 9:15, we have Shuffleboard at the Shuffleboard Courts. We have Match Play Mixed Double Tennis at the tennis courts at 9:30. And at 10 o'clock, the Suzy Q sails out for Woody's Waterfront Restaurant. Sign-ups are required for that. At 10:15, we have Through the Bible at the Bible Studies Group, the Osprey Room. At 10:30, we have Caregiver Support Group Therapy, and that's at the Conference Room in the Medical Center. At 10:30, we have Memory Care Group, and that's at the Conference Room Behavioral Health on the island. And here's Bev to tell you this afternoon's.
Thank you, Dora. We're going to start out the afternoon with Mixed Progressive Bridge. That's at 12:30 in the game room of the Woodlands. At 1 o'clock, we have a Health Connections class, Chronic Pain Self-Management Program. That's in the Oak Room of the Woodlands. The Knitters group will be in the Osprey Room at 1:15. Also at 1:15, the Women's Ministry's Prayer for Missions will be in the Hospitality Room of the Village Church. Our Stamp Ministry will be in the Sabal Room of the Woodlands at 1:30. 1:45 is the time for Fun and Fitness. That's at the Community Room of King's Crown. We have a Health Connections class at 2:45, Balance Basics. That's in the Health Club. You do need to sign up for that. We have a dinner outing going out at 4:15. The name of the restaurant is Time to Eat. The Island Court pickups begin at 4:15, the Woodlands at 4:25, and 4:35 for Eagles Preserve and Estuary. At 7 o'clock, we have Smooth Sounds and Italian Sweets. That's in the Grand Cypress Room at the Woodlands. You do need to have signed up for that to participate. Well, we're so happy to see you here today, and we will see you back here again tomorrow.
Hello, I'm Terry Kolath with your Academy information for Tuesday. At 9 o'clock, Fraktur, Black Text Calligraphy, continues in the Savor Room of the Woodlands. At 10 o'clock, Boost Your Electoral Knowledge will begin in the Grand Cypress Room of the Woodlands, and you can sign up right at the door. At 10:15, we have iPad Contacts in the Manatee Room of the island. I'd like to tell you what a new class coming tomorrow. It's The Changing Face of Nature with author and wildlife photographer Charles Sobczak.
Menus for Tuesday. In the Crystal Room, the Crystal Platter is rotisserie chicken served with Yukon Gold potatoes and cut corn. For dinner, you can choose from their a la carte menu, and the soup of the day is corn chowder. In the Island Cafe, the sandwich special is a chili cheeseburger with fries for $7.95. All menus are available 24 hours a day at www.shellpoint.net.
Welcome to the Village Church Connections. I'm Don Pullen. I'm here with Arni Shareski, and he's going to let us know about something that's restarting at Shell Point, a Bible study that men can participate in. Arni, how you doing?
I'm doing well. It's good to be here.
It's good to be here as well. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Arni.
Well, I've been in ministry now for quite a few years and have enjoyed a variety. My wife and I are from Canada, and then we went to the Congo as missionaries, spent about 10 years there, and then worked in the national office of the Christian and Missionary Alliance for 23 years, and then pastored a church on Long Island, New York for about 5 years, and then came to Shell Point in 1996.
So it's 20 years that you've been here then?
A little over 20 years now,
wow,
right.
Wow.
And just about the time we arrived, I started to attend the Wednesday morning men's Bible class. And since that time, we've had a variety of teachers and quite a nice attendance of men.
About how many on a typical Wednesday morning?
Well, during the winter season, we usually have about 25 to 30 men.
Wow, that's almost a small church right there.
Right, it's a good little group. We sit in a big horseshoe-shaped setup around tables so that everybody can bring a Bible and relax. We spend about an hour. We start at 7:45 in the morning.
7:45.
7:45.
It's a little on the early side, right?
Right.
But
most of the men are up that time anyway.
Oh, okay.
We think. At any rate, we start at that time. We meet in the Osprey room at the Activity Center.
Okay.
And have just a wonderful time. We start with some prayer, and then we take some time always to find out if people have needs. Right now, we're studying the book of Deuteronomy, and we'll begin around chapter 28, 29 on Wednesday, September 7th.
So you're almost finished Deuteronomy.
Almost finished.
And what book are you going to next?
Well, we're going to take a fast walk through Joshua.
Okay.
To see what happened there.
That's a pretty exciting book, Joshua.
Right. And then we're going to kind of move ahead really fast into, and we did already study Jeremiah.
Okay.
And the Exodus to Babylon. Mm-hmm. But we want to go back to what happened when they got back.
Okay.
To Nehemiah and Ezra. So that's what we'll be studying after that.
Great.
Right.
Who might be interested in coming to a Bible study like this?
Well, we try to keep it quite simple, so you don't have to be a highly educated theological person to be able to participate. And we try to make it quite informal, a lot of discussion going on. Many of the men participate with their comments and their thoughts and their questions, and we don't get to answer all the questions. Some of them are a little more than we can handle, and some of them we just have to leave to God.
Okay, or come back the next week, and if there's a particular thing that you really need to cover, you could cover it the following week.
Do a little research. But it's an interesting time. I think the fact that we don't try to make it too much lecture, but it's interaction and a lot of conversation going on, not too complicated, but we do try to get down to the basics of our Christian faith and what it means to walk with God. And we just don't study history, we study history for a purpose.
Okay.
The history of the nation of Israel and other nations as well, to see how God has worked in their lives and how he can work in our lives. Because many of the problems they had, we have also.
Okay.
And the solutions are really not that complicated.
So it sounds like this would be good for someone who maybe is just beginning to understand the Bible, or who wants to learn more about what God says in Scriptures, as well as that person that just wants to gather with other men and continue to study and continue to grow in their relationship with Jesus Christ.
We have some theologians there who have a great knowledge of Scripture, and we have others who are what we would call maybe in kindergarten, but they're learning and they're enjoying it. I just get a lot of good comments about the fact that they can all participate, and the hour goes by very quickly.
Great, great, great. So that's on every Wednesday morning.
Every Wednesday morning.
7:45 a.m., the Osprey Room.
Osprey Room and the Activity Center.
Great, great.
Okay.
Something you might want to consider joining. If you're a male, if you're up that early in the morning, why not join the men as they gather and study God's Word together and have that time of fellowship? You can certainly bring your coffee. Thank you for watching the Village Church Connection.
And that's going to wrap things up for this edition of Shell Point Today for Tuesday, September 20th. Join us tomorrow when Ruth Duber will serve up some sweet potato soup. And we'll get some information about the next Finemark Investment Roundtable. Until then, I'm Adam Brown, wishing you a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you again tomorrow.